All right, this is actually take two. Started talking for a bit, then I realized I have a fucking mic. Anyway, I guess I repeat exactly what I said before. So, took up some courage to muster to get out in the garage and do a video on YGKYM-005. Had some new insights and thoughts that I wanted to share with you in detail on how to do it. This is, I believe, episode 16 then. Episode 1 was on YGKYM-005 also, I believe, when I started this, the last lesson, as far as detailing these documentation or whatever you wanted to call it for Wing Chun. And as you can see, I'm first time in a different outfit just because it's fucking cold, okay? So let's get to it. Let's talk a little bit about YGKYM-005. Everyone knows the breakdown, the simple steps that you talk about, doing what, why, and how. But let's go over a little bit of looking at it from a fresher way, a newer way of looking at YGKYM-005. So when we start from the very beginning, the heels together, feet slightly apart, and we stand like in this position. More often than not, people try to find a sense of balance. Where exactly is the center of gravity? Rocking back and forth, trying to figure out exactly maybe the feet's even and so forth. And by center of gravity, I'm not just talking about the front area. I'm talking about if you slice it like a Mentos or a Lifesaver, this entire part from here to the side to the back is your center of gravity, okay? Now, more often than not, when people get to this point where the heels are together here, then they start the motion, yada, yada, yada. But this initial motion, I want you to look at it a little bit deeper and to appreciate it a little bit more. In the sense that when I start my YGKYM-005, yes, there's a reference point of where the center of gravity is. The starting point, though, has a sense of stillness. Now, in the beginning, even if I say keep the center of gravity still, more often than not, most people will try to hold it in place, try to force it in place, use muscle in place. But there's a level of correct tension flow that happens and occurs to keep it in place without forcing it. So it's almost like a natural balance of how to do this. So while the beginner may not be able to do it, I think the starting point when you teach it should be expressed to beginner, intermediate, advanced students as well. And I'm looking at it from this is not something Steve taught me. This is my own perspective as far as how to achieve that stillness within your center of gravity that seems to be escaping everybody. So from the heels together and here, feet slightly apart, you're basically trying to you're referencing your center of gravity, you're trying to get it still. How do we get it still? We start then first, not by forcing it to be still or settling it in place or trying to balance it with your foot. We're going to take that initial breath. Now, when I say breath, it's like basically in this sense, in this particular motion, we take a breath in and out, like in that sense. So when you think of that breath of in and out, you want to think of an expansion to all parts of the body equally at the same time, from top to bottom, front to side, etc. Now, more often than not, when people take that first breath, it's from the top part. They feel like up here, but I want you to actually take the breath from the center of gravity. In other words, you expand it from the center of gravity area, from the middle area, as opposed from the chest, from the top area. So when I do this, the heels are together like this, right? You feel the expansion. You shouldn't feel if you do it from the center of gravity, you shouldn't feel the expansion only going up to the top. You should feel the expansion going from the top to the bottom, if it is from here, from the belly area, as opposed from the top area. And this initial breath plays an important role because think of this as the tension that you need to expand to all parts of the body. And so, for example, when I'm heeled together and I take that breath, and I'm going to exaggerate first, right? You almost feel like the body's inflating. You don't necessarily have to show yourself going like this, but from here, I'm basically expanding, like it's opening up through the entire body, and then I basically release it. Now, notice when I release it, from expansion to inflation to deflation, you don't see me inflate. you don't see me deflate. I feel the flow of it basically occurring. See, no, you don't see me exaggerate the motion. Once again, I can feel it. It's like I feel it going into the top part. I can feel it down to the lower part without over exaggerating the motion for anyone to actually see. So think of it though in this sense, once you achieve that, so that initial first breath is important. Other than that first breath, I don't want you to focus on it any other time when you're doing the motion. That initial first breath creates the tension that you need, that you want to retain from each individual motion from expanding the center of gravity in place. So while most people will try to find that balance in place, and if you find yourself wavering, back and forth, trying to, you feel okay, like you feel you're centered, but it's wavering, try to use that initial breath. So in other words, there's two ways to approach this, or two functions that you're looking at. You're looking at the expansion of the entire body equally, and then the deflation of the body without showing it. But at the same time, as opposed to you trying to control the center of gravity in place, just take your time with the inflation. So I'm going to exaggerate here. And I'm using that controlled breath pattern in actually to stabilize the center of gravity. I'm not trying to force it. I'm just, as opposed to just going, you just let it in and out. But it's a slow, controlled pattern of me going, and see if you can feel a difference of how your center of gravity feels. Like more often than not, I think when people have their center of gravity, they feel like I'm generally in the right place, but it doesn't feel like I'm actually stabilized. And by stabilized, more people are like, well, I feel a little waver, which is okay and natural, but I want you to actually use the breath to actually almost kind of like use that breath motion of in and out to keep it like stable. Okay, so that's two functions that you're getting. One, trying to control that center of gravity to stay in place and be still. And two, the expansion and contraction of the body. So once I do that, in, out, that's the only time I want you to focus on that breath. You'll feel like, if you see how my hands are like this, when I expand, it's almost like I determine this is the amount of tension I want to run evenly throughout the entire body every single time. Okay, so that is very vital and important. And when I say that flow pattern that occurs from the one starting from the source, going from the top to the bottom, you want to run it basically from the shoulder to the elbow to the palm and to the fingers to release. Same thing from here, from basically from the hips to the waist, going down to the knees, to the heel, to the foot, and expand evenly as well. Okay, that's how you want to look at it. So when you think of that, oh, I'm breathing, I'm contracting, it expands out, I basically have created that initial tension. So for example, I would do it like this, trying to get my center of gravity. So this is me without describing everything. I would be like this, okay? So I visualize that flow. I visualize the tension I created. And now this tension that I feel throughout the entire body, regardless of what motion I'm doing in the YGKYM-005 move or section, I want to retain this feel and sensation for each time. So what do I mean by that? Okay, hopefully I'm not jumping the gun here. So when I feel it, it's almost like me, if the tension runs through, it's almost like me pointing. Like see here, I'm pointing to the ground. I'm not exaggerating it that much, but I have enough expansion where it looks like I'm pointing, but not forcing the point. Now this tension that runs through, a lot of times when you do the first section, you go like this, 1, 2, right? I want you to feel this tension that you have in your arms, right? When I cross over, when I flip out, and then I pull back. More often than not, it's one motion. But I think what people, without me telling you exactly what to look for first, I want you to feel this tension that you have with your hands down, and then realize when you do this, does the tension change from the cross to the flip to the pull back? Because If it does, even in the sense like from here to like opening and flipping and pulling back, I want you to pay closer attention, almost like if you stretch it, right? If my arms are stretched like to this amount for a certain tension, when I cross, when I flip, when I pull back, imagine that tension I have remains the same the entire time. Okay, because sometimes when you do this, like the cross is like, okay, here's one tension. Let's say it's 5, and this is 4, and this is 3, and this is back to 5. Okay, I want you to think of the sense like this is 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Like, so think of it in that perspective first. Okay, now, I know this is a lot of information to take in as far as, okay, you have to do this and this. And this is an important role because the end goal that we want to achieve is not only the flow, it is because of the flow that we can create the stillness of the center of gravity, right? So I want you to understand this. So when we do this motion, we understand that this is hollowing the chest. We hollow the chest to make the center of gravity right here, as far as like almost like referencing it or keeping this or let's just say, like I said, this is the upper part of the ball. But to keep the upper part of the ball intact with the center of gravity and connected, this chest actually is hollowed out, right? I hollow it out. And when I hollow it out and do this full motion, like this is partially hollow, full hollow. And then when I start pulling it back, at this motion, the chest is already hollowed in. If you think of it this way, the chest caves in. When the chest caves in like this you basically feel you feel it run through from the shoulder, right? Like this tension, you feel the tension running through from the shoulder to the elbow to the palm, and then from that palm motion here, and you pull back up, you feel that slight tension to the neck. It's almost like you solidified the first section of the top ball. Okay. And how do I solidify the first section of the top ball? Is that this initial tension from here, right, running it through the entire time, stays even, okay? Now, it could look like I can go like this. 1, looks okay, but I can tell you when I do that motion, while it looks okay, the fluctuation from either the cross to the flip is varying from 5 to 4 to 5, or 5 to 3 to 4, whatever the case would be. I want to be it exactly, once I have that here, one motion, and it feels like 5 the entire time. And it's very important, not only from the tension, that I run that path from once you achieve this hollow chest and that tension, running from the shoulder to the elbow to the palm, and then they fully release. Okay, that's very vital. So this is almost like the completion of the first ball. So when we do that, we complete the first ball, right? It's almost like this. Imagine the ball caving in like this. This is the ball. This is the first section that we solidify of the ball. Now, I think I posted today, always 2 hollows there are. 2 hollow hands to create the ball. 2 hollow feet to create the lower ball. But the top ball, or the main ball itself, actually has 2 hollows too. When you look at the chest cave in, it covers this part here. When the butt's tucked out and I tuck this in, this tuck in, right, is covering this part. So now I secure the ball based off the 2 hollows and the flow, the natural flow, so it stays in its natural area that it is. So once I do this, right, once this tuck in, now I run the same flow that I was concerned about with the top ball, shoulder, elbow, and then hollow palm to release. Now this will follow the same path as well. From the tuck in, once I hollow this out and secure that ball, 1 here for top, 1 here for bottom, I'm going to run it from here to the knee and to the heel. And then from that point on, right, that tension should change. Because if your tension hops or the change, once I have that bend of the knee, notice the bend of the knee stays exactly the same, right? So just like how I'm concerned with the tension here from the cross, I'm concerned of the opening here. Like I'm not going too low and then bouncing changing the tension. That initial tuck in is 1 and then 2. And that flow from the knee to the heel to the hollow foot and then expands out is very vital and important. Okay? So notice now I actually understand how the flow is from the shoulder to the elbow to the palm. Now I understand for the top ball. For the lower ball, hey, get the hell out of here. For the lower ball, I go from the tuck of the hip, right, to the knee, to the heel, to the thing, to the hollow foot. So in entirety, we have 2 hollows. We need the 2 hollows to complete the top ball, right? We need the 2 hollows of the feet to complete the bottom ball. Otherwise, the stepping and footwork will end up like basically staking it. And you need basically the security, not the hold, but securing the location of where the stillness of the center of gravity flows from the first hollow of the chest and the hollow of the basically spine, right? To keep it in place. One this way, right? And then from there, once you have that intact, you have that tension overall. Hey, get out of here. Once you have that, what the fuck was I gonna say? Once you have that tension in place, then you just simply naturally breathe. Notice only in the initial motion when I expanded in and out was the breath ever talked about, as far as expanding in, expanding out. Everything else afterwards is just a maintenance of tension running throughout every single time. But you need to feel that flow from the heel, from the knee to the heel to the hollow. You need to feel the flow from the shoulder to the elbow to the hollow of the foot. You need to feel the hollow of basically the chest and the spine. And then from there, all you simply do is just naturally breathe. And if you can naturally breathe without forcing the tension on the arms, because you already determined the tension from this initial get-go here, then once I stand in place, excuse me, I can keep my center of gravity perfectly still. Not by forcing it in place, not by locking in the motion, by just simply standing here the entire time, whether I stand or I move. That center of gravity from beginning to end is always still. There's always the breath, the natural breath that takes place, but otherwise it is still. Okay, if you understand that, some new terminology, a new way of looking at the new way of looking at the center of gravity. You might have to play this video a couple other times, ask questions if you're confused a little bit about it. But this is vital because without that stillness, right? By the time I stop, you think you're still. You may be moving. The containment's not there. The motion hasn't ended. And basically you stop, but basically the stillness is not there. There's still a waver that occurs. Until that stillness can be achieved, then, only then, can you take your Wing Chun to the next level with your stance. Okay, I think I covered it. All right.